Welcome to Get Better Basketball Live. I'm Coach DeMarco, and today my guest is Coach Austen Hurley, who's going to talk to us about his man-to-man offense. Coach Hurley has shared out on his transition offense and how it flows into his man-to-man. Today, we're going to take a deeper dive into his man-to-man concepts. You're not going to want to miss this episode. But before I jump into it, make sure you hit that like button down below, turn on your notifications, and subscribe to Get Better Basketball on YouTube for more great video breakdowns each and every week. Another Get Better Basketball Live is up now. Coach DeMarco here at Get Better Basketball Live. Today, my guest is Coach Austen Hurley, and we're going to talk about man-to-man offense, but specifically how you can teach your offense against a defense. Coach, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on again. I love doing these videos.
Yeah, Coach, we've done a lot of them, always a big hit. And I know you want to focus in on offense, but a lot of coaches teach their offense on air. And you want to talk to us about how you teach your offense against defense. So tell me a little bit about this concept and, what made you sort of make this transition, or is this something you've always done with your teams?
No, so this past year, I got a chance to take a break from coaching varsity basketball and coaching middle school basketball. And I read the book Saba, the Anti-Fragile Offense by Brian McCormick, which is a great book. And it opened my eyes of how to teach conceptual basketball and how not to teach it against air. And I was big in read and react. I love the drills. It looks nice. It's organized on air. Man, we had a great practice. We looked great. We did this. But when it comes to a great practice, it actually should be chaotic and it should be messy because the game is messy. You learn through mistakes. And, one big thing that I used to teach was, you dribble at, you back cut. Well, we do that drill of, okay, I'm going to dribble at you, you're going to back cut. And we do that. We swing it, dribble, back cut on air. And then we get to the game and it didn't transfer over. But in the way that I've learned through that book is that the game, it transfers over when you make it chaotic. So I don't teach on air basketball for motion basketball. Now there's good on air drills like shooting drills or anything that you need. Like I teach some transition on air stuff. But when I teach motion offense, I have one drill that I'm going to just to teach the spacing, the movement, and it's all natural and it's a game. And kids learn through games. And that's one thing Dr. McCormick puts in his book, and it's amazing. I'm just here to share some things that I've learned through that book.
Coach, I'm interested to see some of the drills that you do and incorporate with your team to teach your man-to-man offense with the defense on the floor. So let's jump into it.
All right. So this is kind of how I teach man-to-man motion offense. Austen Hurley, my Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, is Coach Hurls. If you ever need anything, reach out. I'm here to help. Let's get into it. So teaching motion offense, these are my teaching points. So I go off the system of Saba, and I'll demonstrate on the fast draw, but it's small advantage and a big advantage. So basically we want to attack small advantages and create big advantages and find those to get good shots and play efficient basketball. We want clean passes. So a single gap pass equals create small advantage. That's an action. So we have a lot of 3-on-3 stuff, setting ball screens, away screens, maybe we're cutting, those kind of things. And we'll talk about what a single gap pass is and the action to have. And then we have a double gap pass, is you want to attack double gap, or if there's a double gap pass, it's because you're wide open and we want to shoot the open three if you have a open three shooter. We want to catch the score. Catch the score does not mean catch to attack or catch to shoot. It means we want to catch looking to score. If it's I'm going to shoot a three, I'm going to shoot a three. If I'm going to attack, I'm going to attack. That is what our mindset is. We want to try to score first and then pass second if we need to. And then play your role. If you're a get to the rim player, you have to get to the rim, or if you're a shoot three type of ball player, we got to shoot those open threes. But we got to create advantages to get those players in those positions. So I teach motion offense is a great drill. It's Canada 4-versus-4 drill. You can do this for 4-out-1 teams and 5-out teams. But what this does, it limits as much on-air drills as possible. This is my big teaching points. There's a purpose for on-air drills, but once we master an on-air drill, then we move on. Like I said before in another video, if a kid can do 10 layups on air with no defender make them, they don't need to do on-air layups anymore. Put a defender on them, do a 1-versus-1 drill or 2-versus-2 drills, those kind of things. If a kids can do passing and they can make 10 passes, chip passes up and down the court, they can, they don't need to do on air anymore, put defenders on there. What this has allowed me to do by teaching this way is allows us to develop players more in depth. We do a lot more skill development, not a lot of teamwork. It's a lot of 3-on-3, 2-on-2, and 1-on-1. And we do that as much as possible in our practices. And I have some great drills that I have for you that will really help. And then we want to make it practice as chaotic as possible. We want to make it messy. We want to make it sloppy. We want to learn from those things because the game is never organized. It has an organization of staying in bounds. You know, there's defensive principles, offensive principles, but we want to make it chaotic. So the first drill that I'm going to show that I do, it's a great drill, and you can find it on YouTube as well if you want to search it, but it is Canada 4-versus-4, and a lot of coaches do it. But here's our drill. So with this drill, and I'll move the players and such, is what Coach McCormick does, he puts these two cones here. But what I've done is I moved them off because I want to create double gaps. So if I were to put these cones down, and if I were to move these players down, this makes my one want to play on the 3-point line. And I don't want my players playing on the 3-point line because then our gaps are smaller. This is a single gap. Whereas if we had our 4 down here, now here's our double gap, and we want to find double gaps to drive. But we can't drive this way. We can try, but more than likely it's a smaller gap. Where if I stretch this one out and I put these cones up here, and I do not suggest using cones. I suggest using those little, I call them markers, or those dot plot things that you can put on the floor or put tape down. Cones slide, you can have injury, those kind of things. What we've done is we've created the space of this gap of one can now drive. But what we've done is created 6 zones. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The rules is when we teach this, no 2 offensive players can be in the same zone at the exact same time. If they do, it's an automatic turnover. What this does, it teaches natural push and pull movements. So for instance, if one cannot break down their defender and they dribble at the 2 now has to get out, and they can move into this zone. And the next one's here. The 4 can now move over. It forces everyone to move. And the 2 can stay in the paint. Let's say you have a post-up player, they can post up. Maybe they're not, they get out. But now we can move, and it teaches kids how to move within a game.
Coach, if they don't transition into a different zone, is that a loss of possession? The other team gets the basketball, loss for point. How does that aspect work?
Yep. So it's an automatic. So like if we don't move and we don't get open, it's a natural consequence of you're going to turn the ball over. And what we do is, you can make it any stipulation you want. You want you can't have the ball for 5 seconds, or once it touches, you can't have it for a second, whatever you want. But when I first taught this drill, it was super messy, and it's going to be messy. And what I had to do as a coach is stand off to the side and let them learn. Because I would have players, they just round over, expect to get the ball. It wasn't working. So what they had to learn was, okay, we got to work on our V cut to get open in here. So let's say we pass it to the 4. Okay. And there you can have any rules in your offense you want, but my rule is if you pass from a corner up, it's called an up pass. We don't cut. We cut when there's down passes. So let's say the 4 passes to the 1, we can now cut. So then the 4 can now do a 45 cut, which they're going to cut to the lane. We're going to look for that pass. If it's not there, 3's filling over. X3 has to come defend. 2's coming up, and X2's coming up, and 4 can fill out the backside. And then let's say we have 1 passes to the 3, and let's say we attack. We have an attack middle, and now we're reading defenders, right? So if X4 comes over, we have a big advantage. So for instance, if 3 comes down driving, this is our small advantage, is if they're on their hip, that's a small advantage, meaning they can still defend, they can still alter the shot. And we might have to play through some contact if X4, let's say this is a shooter on a 4, you got to get all the way to the rim. Now let's say X4 comes out and sits in the paint. Well, now we've engaged 2. Our big advantage is going to be this 4 in the corner. And that's our big advantage. Now we want to shoot it. Or let's say they do a closeout. Now we can rip and drive through the closeout. Now, one stipulation or thing that I make is like, yes, if there's two players in a zone, it's a turnover. However, if you are attacking the rim and you have a purpose of scoring, so for instance, 3 is technically in zone 1, but if they're coming at the rim, it is not a turnover. It is if I drive and I'm in here, that's a turnover. Or let's say we're moving over and 4 comes up because 1 decided to clear out because they're getting guarded heavy, and 2 doesn't realize 4 is in here, that's a turnover. I mean, the spacing looks nice because we can go here, but we want 2 to get out of that zone so that way we have constant movement. And so another thing I do with this drill is what I'll do is I'll place myself out on the court, and we'll play like, we put like time limits or score limits, whatever you want to do. But what I do is if you don't want to do make it take it, and you can do make it take it, which we usually do, so that way the defense has to play hard, is I'll position myself on the court. I'll find a zone up here around, and let's say 3 shoots the ball, misses, and X2 gets the rebound. They have to outlet it to me. They have to pass the ball to me. Now they have to flip, go from defense to offense, and it's chaotic. And now players have to figure out who they're guarding. And the reason I do this is because so many drills that I see where our rebound ends the drill is we get a rebound and we go like this and we catch it, like hold it like a football. And then it carries over the game. We do this and the little guards poke at it and this. Where this is we get a natural catch, put it by our ear. We're going to find coach and we're going to outlet it. Now we're working on outlet. We're working on defensive rebound. We're outletting. And now we're switching from offense to defense. And what's nice about this, the offense has no time to complain about a poor shot, a bad shot. Maybe it's a turnover. We're just slowly, we're doing quick switches where they don't have time to complain, or as a coach, you don't have time to really coach them. It is, they need to learn from their mistakes. So this is like the main drill that we do. We do it all the time. And then when your kids really get it down, you can still stay on their court and you can throw in a fifth. We'll throw in a 5th person. And let's say you're a 5-out team, you can go here. Let's say you're a post team. And the thing with this is with the post team is then the rules change a little bit. Now you can have 2 players in a zone, because obviously if you are a dribble drive team and you have dunker spots, they're obviously going to be in the same zone as others, or maybe you stretch the zone out and you manipulate your zone a little bit where now, okay, the 5 is here. And then you can allow 2 players can be in 1, or if we're setting screens, you can change the rules for that. So that's the main way I teach emotion offense, is that drill right there.
Coach, I love that. I love that drill because I feel like there's so many different wrinkles you can put into it. You add an extra offensive player and defensive player, but you could probably put constraints into it in terms of actions or movement. And obviously the players that are in the different offensive zones, they have to move, right? And it's like if you get dribble at, you can't stay in that zone because otherwise there's going to be 2 in the zone. You're going to turn the basketball over. So there's a lot of different benefits. And really the number one thing that kept coming to mind, and I'm curious for you with your plays, if you've seen an improvement in this area, is spacing. When I see this drill, I think spacing. And I'm like, it's teaching players what good spacing looks like and, intentional movement when players dribble at you and push and pull and so on and so forth. But have you seen a benefit in that area with your teams?
Yeah, it teaches so many natural things of spacing, passing, cutting. The spacing has been amazing when I've taught this, because when we put down spots on a court is here's your spot, go to your spot. Well, they think of, okay, I put this nice blue square down or a dot or whatever, I go to the spot. This is a zone. And what's funny is I'm coaching, I've heard from my parents, my players' parents go, hey, they're not playing zone, but you keep yelling, stay out of their zone. What does that mean? And it's like our offensive players have to stay out of each other's zones to keep space. And like, oh my gosh, that like makes sense. So it's like, it's teaching them through play and concepts of, hey, and of just moving, just constant movement. Oh, you're coming my way, I got to get out of here. Okay. Or it's, hey, I'm coming your way, you got to move. And also teach communication of, maybe I'm coming into your zone and I got to say, hey, you got to go up, you got to go up, or hey, set me a screen, or hey, you got to cut, those kind of things. It allows them to communicate and forces communication for that. So with that is, well, what are like some of the options you have? So like for us, we have what's called a secondary action or early offense. And a lot of these things that we do is something you can do in transition, and we do a lot of. So these are 8 things that I've learned through other coaches, YouTube videos, the Twitterverse, and all that. Is our first one is drag. It's just basically a ball screen, and with that, the 2 lifts. So the 5 comes as a drag screen, the 1 comes off. And these aren't have to be always in transition. This can be, hey, the ball stuck, we got to do an action, 5, like the center person. It doesn't need to be the 5. It can be the middle player comes to the drag screen. We have push, where we're just pushing through. Let's say they're taking away the 2 in transition. We're going to push through, get them out of there. The next one we have is through, 2 lifts. We pass, we cut through. Pretty simple. The 4th one we have is dribble handoff. Very simple. So like this is where, like when you play that Canada 4 versus 4, or if you do 5 versus 5, is now you can let 2 players in the same zone. And you're going to have to in order to have these actions work. Back, I really like this one, especially if I want a nice straight on 3. We set a back screen for the 2. The 1 can take to the rack. The 5 is then set another screen for the 2. The next one is just a double side stagger screen, ball screen that we're coming off of. 4 lifts, 5 fills, 2 comes up. All things that you've seen college players do, NBA teams do. And then 5, this one is just away. And then we have swing. The main thing on this is a lot of 3 versus 3, a lot of 3-man games. And there's combinations with this too. But how we progress this is we'll do 3 versus 0 shooting. Then we'll go 3 versus 3 half court live. We'll do 3 versus 3 racer, like I talked about in a different intro. We'll do 5 versus 5 half court live. And we'll do 5 versus 5 racer. So all these things, that's the progression how we do just to create natural movement. But you can do all these things with that Canada drill. I have those dots or those zones out all the time when we're playing, because then they know where their zones are at and it transfers over to the game. Excuse me. So like some of the combinations we have is like you can do a push drag, like we can push down, set a ball screen. We can do a dribble handoff drag. Same thing, dribble handoff and a drag. A lot of this deals with drag screen, but it's 3-man games. And then these 2 sit off the side. 3-man game. This is called push away. And I like this one a lot, is we're going to push the 2 out. The 5 is going to set an away screen. The 3 has to come up out of their zone. Those 2's coming across all the way to the top. And it's kind of like circle motion a little bit if you've seen that. So then 4 comes down, and then the 3's coming up. What I like about this is there's no help. There can't be a lot of help defense here because the X2's chasing, and they might be a little late. And then we have hand away, we're dribble handoff. And now this is a 5-man game right here. Same as the push away. We have a lot of 5-man game of 2 guys engaged. We have 3 guys engaged. And then we have through away. So those are some early combinations that you can do. And how we do that is a lot of 3 versus 3. And what that looks like is we'll set up like this on a half court. We'll get a line at the top, at the half court line of my 4s and 5s, my bigs, my 1s. We'll have a line out here. We'll have the 2s in the corner, and we do a lot of this work. And what we do, so like for instance, just give you an example, and this isn't a playbook that you can get on my coach tube, is you can get all of these things if you want them. Is the 1 dribbles off, we get a drag screen. We want to hit the roll man, but if not, we have the 2 lift on the backside. And what this 2 does by lifting brings this X2 up to take away the help. Now, let's say the X2 drops and it's over here. Then it gets passed back to the 2. Now we can have an open 3, get an open shot if you have a really good 3-point shooter there, or we have post action. Now you can work your back to the backboard if you got a nice post presence. If you're a 4-out 1-in coach and you're like, well, I don't do a lot of 5-out stuff. Well, this can get you into your 4-out 1 actions, is running a drag screen, an away screen, and then finding ways to get them down into the block. And then you can work out on your 4-out 1-in offense and run your motion. But that's basically how I teach motion offense. We do these drills every single day with that. And the one thing that I like to do as well is a 3-man racer right here. It's just like the 5-man racer that we did. It's just continuous 3-on-3, and they just do actions. They can do drag, they can do hand, they can do back, they can do all these different actions and learn them. And maybe you just throw in drag for the first day. But in racer, every single action, if you want to play, you're playing 3 versus 3, you need to start with a drag screen in transition every time. And that's how I teach our offense.
Coach, you mentioned your coach tube as a potential opportunity for coaches to check out some of the stuff that you've shared out there. Could you talk a little bit more about how coaches can contact you if they want to learn more about your motion offense?
Yep. So I'll share the screen back with you. I have a QR code where you can get to my coach tube link. It has transition offense playbook with the press break, with motion offense on there. You can access it there. I'm always available on Twitter. If you ask me through Twitter, I'll send you the link for the coach tube and you can get the playbook there. What I'll do is I'll take the videos that Coach DeMarco does with this, and I will put those in the coach tube as well. So that way you always have a reference to go to.
If you had advice for a coach who's going to teach motion offense, or really just offense in general, to their team, what would it be?
You have to let it be chaotic. A lot of the times, and I fell to this as a coach, is if it looks organized, you look like a great coach. You think you look like a great coach. But the best coaches that I've seen are their teams play so chaotic and they find these advantages. You don't know what they're going to do, but they also have great players that can do that and they mold them. But you have to be okay with chaos and ugliness. At times when I had practices, I would say, man, that was an ugly practice. That didn't look good at all. Now, yes, there are ugly practices, but there are times where ugly is okay. That Canada 4 versus 4 drill will be ugly, it'll be chaotic, but that's what I like. That is what I've transitioned into. And you have to be comfortable with it. We have to let players make mistakes and play.
And as players are making those mistakes, they're learning from them in the process with some guidance from you as a coach, with the drills, the constraints that you're incorporating. Just one last question I want to ask before we jump off here. Just thinking about constraints with some of these drills, are there things like you have to use this type of action, or there are constraints that you put into some of these small-sided games, or do you kind of leave it open to the players?
When we learn a new drill or learn a new action, that's the constraint is, well, we only know that one. It's like a toolbox. If I only know how to use a screwdriver, I'm only going to use the screwdriver. I'm going to use it as a hammer, but it doesn't work, right? So we got to learn how to use a hammer next. So then it's okay, we learned the away screen. So now there's different options toolbox. And then you have to work with your guards, your point guards, to call those out.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate your time today. A lot of great concepts here, and just really teaching offense. It's going to be ugly sometimes. The players are going to grasp it. They're going to learn, and they're going to be better for it in the games.
Thanks for having me, Coach.